All right, buckle up, everybody, because today's deep dive is going to take us into some pretty wild territory.
Yeah, we're talking about a headline that dropped just yesterday, and let me tell you, it's something else.
We're talking about the AP article with the title, Trump Refuses to Rule Out Military Use to Take Over Greenland, Panama Canal.
I mean, wow, right.
Yeah, not exactly your typical news day.
And the thing is, if this was just some random tweet storm, maybe we could brush it off.
Right.
But this was during a formal press conference at Mar-a-Lago.
Just days before the inauguration.
Exactly. So it really makes you wonder, is this, just classic Trump?
Or something more serious going on here.
Yeah, like, is this a sign of a real shift in U.S. foreign policy?
Because he didn't exactly mince words in the article, right? It quotes him saying he wouldn't rule out military force to gain control of Greenland and the Panama Canal.
And his justification.
Right.
National security.
I mean, come on.
And that's what's so alarming for a lot of people.
It's a pretty big departure from, the whole promoting democracy and diplomacy thing.
Yeah, like for decades, that's been the general approach.
And now suddenly we're talking about using military might to just, grab territory.
Feels like we've stepped back in time,
Right, back to the age of imperialism.
Exactly.
And get this, you're not going to believe this, Trump Jr. was actually in Greenland.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah, at the same time this statement drops.
What a coincidence.
The article calls it a private visit.
Sure, private.
But you have to wonder if there's more to it.
Oh, absolutely. That timing is way too suspicious.
So, of course, Denmark is not thrilled.
Yeah, I can imagine.
They were quick to point out, hello, Greenland is part of the Kingdom of Denmark, and it's self-governing.
Like, back off.
Right, and they even made a point of saying Trump Jr.'s visit had nothing to do with any official business.
So why Greenland, then?
Why is it suddenly so important?
Well, the article mentions a few things.
Okay.
First of all, the U.S. has a big military base there. And then there's the whole Arctic location thing.
Oh, right, with the melting ice and all that.
Exactly. It's becoming a more and more strategic area.
More shipping lanes, competition for resources.
Yeah, basically it's a geopolitical hot potato.
And then there's the Panama Canal, which, we gave back control of in 1999.
Yeah, huge deal at the time.
Supposed to be this new era of U.S.-Panama relations.
Right.
And now Trump's talking about taking it back by force.
Panama was not having it.
Nope. Their foreign minister came out swinging.
What'd they say?
The sovereignty of our canal is not negotiable.
Mic drop. So much for diplomacy.
And then there's the whole Canada thing.
Oh, right. The 51st state idea.
He claims he wouldn't use military force this time, but economic force instead.
What does that even mean?
Beats me. But apparently it has something to do with trade deficits.
He sees the trade deficit with Canada as, like, a subsidy or something.
Okay.
Which is not how trade deficits work, but whatever.
The article includes some great quotes from Canadian leaders. One said, "There isn't a snowball's chance in hell."
Yeah, I think they made their feelings pretty clear.
So we've got potential military action in Greenland, diplomatic drama with Panama, and Canada getting a very unwelcome proposition.
Is that all?
Oh, wait, there's more.
Of course there is.
He also brought up NATO.
Uh-oh. What now?
Wants them to boost defense spending to at least 5% of GDP.
5%? The target's 2% right now.
Yeah, he's basically doubling down.
Which he's been doing, like, forever.
All right, this isn't a new demand.
But it's definitely going to ruffle some feathers.
Especially with everything else going on.
Yeah, you got to wonder what his end game is here.
Like, is he trying to strengthen alliances or destroy them?
Good question. And what does this all mean for Biden?
Oh, right, the incoming administration.
There's already some tension there.
Yeah, the article mentioned Trump complaining about Biden's policies.
Like what?
The offshore drilling ban, for one.
Oh, right.
Calling Biden unsmooth and saying it undermined his plans.
But the article also said that Biden's team has been helpful during the transition.
So it's a mixed bag, I guess.
Yeah, like two completely different stories happening at the same time.
It's all a bit overwhelming.
So we've got a president-elect making some pretty wild claims.
Strained relationships with allies.
A potentially rocky transition of power.
Where do we even begin?
I think we need to start by understanding the context,
Right.
These statements didn't just come out of nowhere.
There's a bigger picture here.
Yeah, we need to figure out what that picture is if we want to make sense of any of this.
Well, hold on tight, everybody, because this is just the beginning.
We're going to unpack all of this and more in part 2 of this deep dive.
So stay tuned. Okay, welcome back, everybody.
Deep breaths, everyone. Deep breath.
I don't know about you, but I'm still trying to wrap my head around all of that.
Yeah, that was a lot to process.
It's like Where do we even go from here?
Well, I think the big question is, what are the consequences of all of this?
Right, like what happens next?
Because these aren't just empty words, you know?
Especially coming from the most powerful country in the world.
Exactly. And thankfully, this AP article doesn't just stop at reporting the statements.
Okay.
It actually talks to experts and officials to get their take on what this could all mean.
So what are they saying? Are they freaking out as much as I am?
Let's just say the article isn't exactly filled with optimism.
Oh boy.
One of the biggest concerns is the damage this could do to U.S. credibility.
Right, like if you're another country and you hear the U.S. president talking about taking your land by force,
Yeah, how safe would you feel?
not very.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just like feeling safe.
Okay.
It's about trust, you know?
Right, like can other countries trust the U.S. to keep its word?
Yeah. And to respect international norms.
Because if not, then what?
Well, the article quotes a bunch of foreign policy experts.
Okay.
And they're basically saying this kind of rhetoric, even if it's never acted upon,
Yeah.
it can really erode trust.
Makes the U.S. look unpredictable, aggressive.
Exactly. And some even say a little unhinged.
It's like, actions speak louder than words, but words still matter.
Absolutely. Because your word is your bond.
And if the U.S. can't be trusted to honor its commitments,
Then what does that say about its role in the world?
yeah, not a good look.
And remember, this isn't happening in a vacuum.
What do you mean?
Well, the U.S. has a history, especially in Latin America.
Right, lots of interventions, regime changes.
Exactly. So even if Trump doesn't actually invade Panama,
Yeah,
just the threat alone can bring up a lot of bad memories.
like poking a sleeping bear,
And you know who's probably watching all of this very closely?
Oh.
Russia and China?
Oh, right.
The article suggests they might see this as an opportunity.
To what, take advantage of the situation?
Exactly, to exploit these rifts and push their own agendas.
So it's not just about hurting relationships with allies.
It's also about potentially strengthening our rivals.
It's like we're shooting ourselves in the foot.
And handing the gun to our enemies.
Not a great strategy.
Not at all, because at the end of the day, the U.S. can't solve every problem alone.
Right, we need allies.
We need partners.
We need to work together.
Exactly, and this America First approach, it doesn't really leave much room for cooperation.
Yeah, it's more like America alone.
And let's not forget about the economic consequences.
Right, we touched on the trade stuff earlier.
But the article goes deeper, talking about how these tensions could destabilize global markets.
Yeah, like starting a trade war.
Which almost never ends well.
Hurts everyone involved.
Exactly, because economies are interconnected,
Right, what happens in one place affects us all.
We can't just pretend we're in a bubble.
And amidst all of this, the geopolitical maneuvering, the economic threats.
It's easy to forget about the human element.
Right, the people who actually live in these places.
Exactly, and the article does a good job of reminding us of that.
Okay, how so?
It talks about the anxieties and uncertainties people are feeling.
Especially in smaller countries, facing a much larger power.
Yeah, it's a reminder that these aren't just abstract ideas we're talking about.
These are real people's lives.
With real consequences.
It's a lot to think about.
It is, and it makes you wonder, is there more to this story than meets the eye?
What do you mean?
Well, the article does explore some alternative interpretations.
Okay, like what?
Some experts suggest that maybe, just maybe, this is all part of a bigger plan.
A plan?
Yeah, like a negotiating tactic.
Oh, you mean like he's trying to get something out of this?
Exactly, to assert dominance, secure concessions.
So it's all just a bluff.
Maybe, and to be fair, Trump has used this kind of tactic before.
Right, in his business dealings.
Exactly, he's all about the art of the deal.
But that doesn't always work in international relations, does it?
No, it doesn't, and the article warns that this could backfire pretty spectacularly.
Yeah, because in business, maybe you can bully your way into a better deal.
But in geopolitics, pushing your allies away can have serious consequences.
Creates more instability, more conflict.
Exactly, and there's another point of view the article mentions.
Okay, what's that?
That maybe, just maybe, this could actually strengthen international resolve.
How so?
Like, hey, the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of situation.
Oh, interesting.
Like, maybe this will push other countries to band together against the U.S.
And that could lead to a renewed focus on multilateralism, on cooperation.
It's possible, but even if that happens,
Yeah.
the damage might already be done.
Like trust is hard to rebuild once it's broken.
Exactly, and so far, we've talked about the impact on U.S. allies,
The potential risks for the global economy.
the human cost.
But there's one more piece of the puzzle we need to look at.
What's that?
The impact on U.S. domestic politics.
Yes, because what happens on the world stage?
Doesn't stay on the world stage.
Exactly. It all comes back home eventually.
And that's where things get really interesting.
So buckle up, because in part 3, we're going to dive into the heart of American politics.
And explore how these pronouncements might shape the future of the nation itself. Okay, so we've gone global. Now it's time to bring it back home.
Right, because as we've been saying, foreign policy and domestic politics, they're not two separate things.
Yeah, they're totally intertwined.
In this AP article, it really gets into how these statements from Trump,
About Greenland, Panama, Canada.
yeah, how they're playing out here in the U.S.
So what's the story? What are people saying?
Well, one thing the article points out is that this kind of rhetoric,
About American strength, taking back control.
yeah, it really resonates with a certain segment of the population.
It's like that Make America Great Again vibe, but on a global scale.
Exactly, and it taps into this feeling of nostalgia, this idea that America used to be more dominant.
And that we need to reclaim our place in the world.
Right, and it can be a very powerful message.
But also a dangerous one, right?
Yeah, because it can lead to more division.
Like us versus them.
Exactly, and that makes it even harder to find common ground.
On any issue, really, domestic or international.
It creates this atmosphere of distrust where compromise is seen as weakness.
And cooperation is seen as, like, selling out.
Yeah, it's like we're all stuck in our own echo chambers.
Shouting at each other, but never actually listening.
And the article also talks about the impact on our democratic institutions.
Okay, how so?
Well, think about it. If the U.S. is just ignoring treaties, breaking international law,
Yeah.
what does that say about our commitment to the rule of law here at home?
Like, if those rules don't apply to us, why should they apply to anyone?
Right, and the article quotes some legal scholars who are pretty worried about that.
Saying it could set a dangerous precedent.
Yeah, erode the very foundation of our democracy.
So it's not just about what happens overseas.
It's about what kind of country we want to be.
And what kind of world we want to live in.
Exactly, and then there's the economic side of things.
Right. We talked about the risks of trade war.
But the article goes even further, saying that all of this instability,
Yeah.
it could actually hurt American businesses in the long run.
It's like, we're so focused on winning.
That we don't realize we're actually losing.
And it's not just us. The whole world feels it.
Yeah, it's like a ripple effect.
So we've got political polarization, threats to democracy, economic risks.
Anything else?
Oh, there's always more.
Right. The article also mentions the possibility of pushback from Congress.
Even from members of Trump's own party.
Yeah, because there's always that tension between the executive and legislative branches.
Like who gets to control foreign policy.
Exactly. And these statements, especially the ones about using military force,
Yeah.
they could trigger a constitutional crisis.
More gridlock, more infighting.
It's not a pretty picture, but it's important to understand all the potential consequences.
Because at the end of the day, this isn't just some abstract political game.
It affects real people's lives.
Their jobs, their safety, their future.
And the choices we make today, they have real consequences tomorrow.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think the big question we're left with is,
What kind of world do we want to build?
what kind of America do we want to be?
And it's not about blind patriotism or unquestioning loyalty.
It's about engaging with these issues, thinking critically, and holding our leaders accountable.
Because the future is not predetermined, it's something we create together.
So if you're listening, we urge you to keep asking questions, keep learning, keep digging deeper.
Because the more we understand the complexities of these issues, the better equipped we'll be to shape a world that works for everyone.
And that's what this deep dive has been all about, exploring the different perspectives, the potential risks, and the opportunities.
It's about going beyond the headlines, beyond the sound bites, and really trying to make sense of this complex and ever-changing world.
So thanks for joining us on this journey, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.
No way.